Thank you for joining our Rapattoni Magic webinar series. Today is going to be month end part 2, closing those transactions. Today we do not have Mark Werber with us today. He is indisposed, but we do have our lovely Diane Clem, one of our great veteran AMS support representatives.
Hi everyone.
And of course myself, Frank Wurdersdorf, who's also a veteran.
And lovely as well.
Coming to you live from Simi Valley, California, as always. Just want to give just some recognition to Mark Boatman, who puts on the multimedia, make sure that these webinars get put on our website for you so you can watch those over and over and over again, as well as Sabrina Steffen, making sure that the correspondence is out there so you know when we do put these on and when they are posted for you. And again, our version is Magic Rapattoni 10.108. We've had a lot of customers get upgraded to this newest version. If you have not, get up to speed, get with the latest and greatest of 10.1.08. In today's agenda, we're going to cover review part 1. That's right. A month ago, we did cover the beginning parts and the reporting of the month-end process. We're also going to talk about posting the journal entries, locking down those transactions so no one can make any changes to those, so you can get those nice and ready and into your accounting software, as well as we process those journal entries where we have a number of action items for you to really kind of analyze, export, and so forth. And lastly, we do have an optional step for the month-end process. We definitely recommend you do this, and we definitely recommend you do it right after you've done the month-end process, and we'll talk about that member history update. Diane.
First, let's review part 1 of our month-end procedures. A while back, we covered part 1, which included where to find the general ledger codes in Magic. We also showed you the month-end procedures form, which is a very quick and easy guide to all of the places necessary for you to go to complete your month-end. We showed you reports which you can compare so that you can determine whether receipts and invoices are in balance and there's no corrupt data. And we showed you the inventory activity report. This is a time-sensitive report. It's very important for you to run this report each month end and save it if you're using our inventory module. We showed you a couple of optional reports as well, such as the cash reconciliation report and the aged accounts receivable.
Now let's jump into the main course of our content, and that's going to be the post-journal entries. Let's jump into Magic. So we're already jump into the month-end procedure catalog here, which was Alt-N, A, O, M. That's how we got here. And as you can see up at the top, we've already covered the inventory activity report and any steps prior to this step here. So let's jump into the post-journal entries. That's where we left off. Now the post-journal entry is going to organize those transactions, and in most cases it's going to start with having 3 different topics. One is the cash receipts, as well as sales and the invoices, and of course the inventory activity. If you have a nice robust network, or you don't have a lot of transactions, you can actually click all of these and run the posting all at once for all of those categories. So we're going to put our date in 03/30/14 because that is the end. That's the month that we're trying to close for. Magic does make you choose your GL company, and then also defaults to the date, your transaction through date for your journal entry date, and you can hit post. Now, if you have a kind of a sketchy network where it freezes a lot or it just kind of sits there, or you have a large volume of transactions that you're trying to close for the month, we recommend that you can run these one at a time, one for cash receipts, go back in, run it for sales and inventory as well. Let's review. Check our little box on our checklist and review. Post-journal entries, what does it do? It organizes the transactions into journal entry batches. From there, we'd have the 3 categories: cash receipts and journal entry. As you probably could figure out, it updates the receipts for your general ledger. The sales journal entry looks at the invoices and updates those for your GL. And the inventory journal entry will update your inventory activity for the general ledger as well. You want to choose your end date, and of course you can backdate. and you do have to choose your GL company. Let's go ahead and go and process. Diane, you want to take us in there?
Yes, I do. Let's go to Magic, and we're going to go to the Process Journal Entries form. We're going to click on this next step and click Run Program, and the Process Journal Entry form contains a lot of different information. We are going to begin by highlighting one of our journal entry batches, the Cash Receipts Update batch. You'll notice there is a batch created for inventory, sales, and update as you run through your processes. We're highlighting the Cash Receipts Update, and we're going to zoom into that batch number field. If you zoom into the field, you get to see the detail in terms of what charge codes are included in this batch and how much money was applied to those charge codes, and also the GL account that's associated with those charge codes. If you select a charge code and zoom into that field, you even get enough detail to determine which invoice that charge code is tied to and what the dollar value is. The next section of this form includes the posted, exported, and unposted and purged fields. This tells you if these tasks were done, what time they were done, who performed the task, and what GL company you're looking at. So if you had exported this to your accounting software, you would see that information there, and same with if you had unposted or purged the batch. The next section of this form are several action buttons. So you have action items you can do. The first one we're going to look at is journal entry reports. We had highlighted the cash receipts update, so we're going to look at the journal entry report for cash receipts. You can run this report one of three ways, either by GL account in summary, by charge code in summary, or detailed by GL account. Select your billing group or leave blank for all billing groups and create your report. We're going to run this in summary by charge code for you to look at. And here you can see to the left of the report, you list your GL account codes, and just to the right of those are the charge codes. The first GL account you see on this report is your cash account. That's your positive value. Every account underneath that is going to be the different GL accounts and which charge codes pertain to those GL accounts. In this case, you see a GL account referencing charge code 8050. The total of that is $50. There's only one item. There's no need for a subtotal. But the next GL account, 333-44401, has several charge codes attached to it. So you're going to see the listing of all those charge codes along with a subtitle. If you add that subtotal of 1401 to that $50, you come up with the total of 1451, and your month end is in balance. This report can also be compared to the cash receipts by charge code in summary. The items appear in a little different order, but the dollar total at the end is the same, $14.51 for the month of March in our cash receipts by charge code.
Thank you, Diane. Another category that we actually post for the journal entries is the sales update. And mind you, they do look at the invoices. Now, if you are running your accounting system in Magic as on a cash basis, you will probably get a no record selected to update message when you're running this, and that's fine. That's very normal when you're running cash basis. If you're running in Magic as accrual basis, then you actually will get something that looks very similar to the cash receipts update, and we did find one for you to show you. Give me 1 second. Here is a sales update journal entry report for a association that's running the transactions under accrual basis. As you can see up top, we have our larger number, and that is associated with the accounts receivable. This is comparable in a sense when you're just comparing to the reports as the cash basis or the cash account and the cash receipts report. This is the accounts receivable number here. The total of all other accounts should add up and total combined the accounts receivable account there. So again, very similar to the cash receipts, just a little bit different. Now, if you have $0 invoices, such as the splitting with NAR and the state dues, you will see those transactions in the sales update. and not in the cash receipts update. Even though there might be a receipt linked to those invoices, there is no cash or monies applied to those receipts, so we show them in the sales update report there.
Perfect. The next item we're going to look at is the inventory update. We're going to click on the journal reports for that item. I'm going to pull up our handy reports here to the side. The journal entry report for inventory is going to include two sections. The first section being the inventory account. You'll see all the activity that came out of inventory, all those negative values under that account code. The next code is your cost of sales account code. The totals in each of these GL accounts should balance each other and balance out to 0. Now, if you're interested in getting more detail on an item, you can run this in detail form, or you can compare this to the inventory activity report. We've selected an item, charge code 1014, which is our location sign, and we're going to show you how that ties together. In this inventory activity report, we're going to look for that charge code. And under that charge code, you can see that the total of the sales and adjustments equals that $11.86 figure, and that matches with our other report. A quick word that you're going to look at the total of the sales and adjustments in order to match it with that total. The inventory receipts is not a dollar figure. It's actually a dollar value rather than money collected. So those receipts totals you're going to compare to your purchase order report. You can also compare that inventory activity report to the journal entry report for inventory when you run it in detail form. It looks almost exactly the same. You can see it breaks it down the same way. Last updated sales, receipts, and adjustments.
Let's review. So let's talk about the process journal entries form. First, Diane took us to the GL batch ID, where you actually can zoom in and see the details of what's in that batch, as well as zoom in to each different charge code and see specific invoices for each transaction and the total of those invoices. Very good detail there. We really took a look in the journal entries report. The receipts journal entry update is comparable to the cash receipts by charge code. That's how you can combine those. Run those both by charge code and you compare those. The cash GL code amount should equal to all the other GL numbers amounts combined. That's how helps you know if you're balancing within your receipts report. The sales journal update is comparable to the sales journal entry, or I'm sorry, the sales journal report by charge code. And when you run on an accrual basis, the accounts receivable GL code amount should equal to all the other GL numbers amounts combined as well. Now, if you run on a cash basis in Magic, when you run the sales journal entry update, you will get a message, no record selected for your batch, and that is completely normal. The sales journal entry will show your $0 invoices, such as when you split NAR and the state dues. And again, that's because there's no monies or cash being applied to a receipt, so it will not show in the receipt report. We put it in the sales journal report. We also have the inventory update by charge code, and that is comparable to the inventory activity report by charge code. Now, to really kind of balance out and compare those, you want to look at the sales item and the adjustments only in the inventory activity report for each charge code. And if, like Diane had mentioned, if you want to compare the receipts in the inventory activity report, that is not necessarily receipt as in you received cash, but it's referring to your purchase orders, and we do have a purchase order report in the inventory module, which we covered a few months ago.
Yes, we did. And we're going to continue on with processing journal entry. We're going to take a look at the remaining action buttons. The first one is the Unpost button. This button will be used if you are working in Magic and you find that there is a transaction that's a problem and it was posted in a previous month-end batch. You can unpost that previous month-end batch, correct the problem, rerun your reports, and repost the batch to correct the problem. The export button is in case you want to take the information that Magic has organized by GL account and send it to a file which you can then import into your accounting software. You can organize this report either by account or by charge code. QuickBooks, I think you have to run it by account, whereas the others you have an option. Once this file has been created, you can decide where it's going to be stored. In this case, it's stored right on the C drive. And the file name is always going to be glupdate.iif or whatever extension goes along with your accounting package. There's also available a purge button. If you're running month-end for a long time in Magic, you're going to have a lot of batches in there with a lot of activity. And if you purge your old batches, it'll keep month-end running a lot more smoothly, a lot more quickly for you. There'll be a lot less problems. So purge those old batches so that you can keep your month-end process running smoothly. Keep in mind that once you have purged a batch, you can't run the journal entry reports and you can't export the data because there's nothing left in the batch. You can unpost the batch if you need to, even though it's purged. This is just a temp file that these items are stored in. That's all you're going to purge is the temp file. So let's review. The remaining action items under Process Journal Entry are to unpost a batch. This releases transactions so you can correct a mistake. To export the items in a batch, this creates a file ready to import into your general accounting software. Or to purge a batch, this removes transactions from the temp account. You can't run journal reports or export items from this batch because the batch is now empty, but you can unpost the batch if you need to. We do this to increase the month-end performance, makes it go a little more quickly and smoothly.
Now let's talk about the member history update. Before we jump into that, I just want you to notice that we do have two process journal entries steps here. And that's more because, as you probably noticed as we ran through, there's a number of different things you can do under this form. So one could be running the reports, and the other could be doing all the other action items, which we do have notes here for you in here so that can kind of differentiate between the two. Also, we do have a step in here. This is not Magic related per se. It's just a reminder. When we do export, it, like Diane had mentioned, it does create a file to put on your network. From there, you do need to grab that file and export it into your accounting software. So once you've done that, you can check that off as well. Now, so the last thing we have on the steps is the member history update. This is not something that you necessarily have to do for month end, but we do recommend you do it after you've done month end. It's a nice way to keep up because we want to do it at least on a monthly basis. What this will do is we'll update all your paid dues and contribution invoices for your dues history and contribution history, as well as it will update your billed status from B to P. So if you're running those reports to kind of make sure that who's paid and who hasn't paid, if you need to correspond to those people that haven't paid, this will help you be able to run those reports and have accurate numbers. Just want to warn you, make sure before you run this update, make sure you've gone to the credit card logs as well as the transaction reports, either on IMS or within Magic. Make sure all the incomplete credit card transactions have been resolved. So for once you're in here, all you have to do is put in the date that you want the history to be updated to. In our case, we're closing through for March, which I believe actually is the 31st. So we're ready to update the history now, because the reason we're doing it now is all the transactions are locked down anyway from doing the month-end processing and posting those transactions. So it's not going to affect when we have to make any corrections, for accounting. If there's some transactions that might have been off, and the accountant has to go in there and do that. So all you have to do is put in the date and hit an update. If you'd like to see the log, you can do that. We've done it. The last time we've done it is 10/28/14. We'll check that step, and that's pretty much the month-end process. Let's go ahead and review that last step. What does member history update do? It updates your dues history and contribution history. It helps update the bill status from B to P, where you can have accurate information on those reports. We do recommend that you check the credit card logs and the credit card transaction reports to make sure all incomplete transactions, credit card transactions, have been resolved. And what does this affect? Why are we doing this? Well, it does give you the ability to send transmittals through the data exchange. That's sending those financial transactions to NAR or even your state or any other vendor out there that you might have, as well as running a contributions report. So if you really want to have the most current data, then you can running that history will actually give you that information when you're running those contributions reports.
We covered a lot of ground today, and we finished up our month-end procedures. First thing we did was review what we covered in part 1, and then we showed you how to post journal entries for sales, receipts, and inventory batches. We went through the process journal entry forms, going through all of the action items such as reports, exporting, and purging batches. And we showed you the optional step of member history update, so you can get all contributions and dues payments updated to history, and you can do your items in data exchange and contributions reports. And now it's time for question and answers. Our first question is, how do you reconcile inventory receipts? Inventory receipts, as we mentioned earlier, are not a dollar item. It's the value of the items that were received, and you can compare that to a purchase order report. Those are the two reports you want to compare for that. Next question is, why don't the $0 invoices show up in the cash receipts report? Well, although a $0 invoice, such as a due split invoice, is tied to a receipt in the member's AR, there's no actual cash applied to it. It's a $0 invoice, so zero cash is applied to it. You're going to find that in your sales update rather than in your cash receipts.
If you have any other questions, make sure you email us at webinars@rapattoni.com. And now it's time for the Rapattoni 411. What's new with Rapattoni? Well, our next webinar is going to be June 4th. And we're going to go over another tips and tricks. It's going to be number 3. It's the Did You Know tips and tricks from our Rapattoni staff. All experts and novices will be sure to learn something new in this next webinar.
And to view past and future webinars and to register for upcoming webinars, please visit our website at www.rapattoni.com. Click on the word support, Magic, webinars, and training videos, and you'll see a complete library of all of our past webinars, and you'll also see any upcoming webinars that you can register for. Also, you can have some of your questions answered by going to our webpage and clicking Support Magic and Magic Resource Articles. There are several useful articles posted there for you as well.
Thank you for joining this webinar, our Magic webinar. We'll see you next month.
Thanks, everyone.